Hello and good day class. So for today, we're going to discuss about the topic 10, public health ethics, yung causal inference, tsaka yung causation. Okay? So this will be a two-part video. So please listen. Okay? So for the objective of our lecture today, we need to discuss the process of causal inference and the ethical considerations when conducting an epidemiological research. So we can divide the objective of the study or the objective of our discussion today into six. Number one, discuss the elements of research ethics. The second one is to describe the elements of an informed consent. Okay? Discuss the ethical guidelines specific for epidemiological research. Discuss the process of causal inference. Discuss the role of public health in establishing an association, yung chance, yung bias, tsaka yung confounding. Okay? And lastly, a brief discussion ng Bradford-Hill's criteria in establishing causation. So once again, this will be a two-part video discussion. So before we proceed in our actual discussion, kailangan muna nating maintindihan or we need first to understand what is ethics. So ethics in general are moral principles that govern a person or a group in conducting an activity. So in epidemiology, that activity pertains to research. Okay? Sulat natin. Nasaan na yung ballpen ko? Again, in epidemiology, that particular activity na tinutukoy ng ethics is regarding research. Okay? Now, so research ethics are moral principles that govern a researcher in conducting research activities. So, how important are ethics? No? Ano bang importansya nito? So, just to give you a simple explanation, or a simple point of view how important ethics in research. So for example, you are trying to research about STIs, HIV. So your main goal is to understand, or your main goal is to have a greater understanding on the treatment for HIV. Okay, so your outcome or yung pinaka main goal mo or main objective of this study would be nice, it would be very good, no? However, the methodology itself, no? For example, is a study mo na gusto mo ma-understand yung HIV treatment, pero ang methodology mo naman is for those HIV people, no, or individuals, ibibigyan mo sila ng unrecognized treatment from the FDA, no? Hindi sila licensed, hindi sila no? So illegal drugs yung ibibigay mo sa kanila. So that is unethical. So even though your main goal is very good or it's really nice, however, if your methodology is immoral, no, is morally incorrect, basically hindi ethical yung research mo. Okay, now to give you a historical perspective of the public health ethics, so probably one of the most popular stories, in science, na it gone wrong, sabi nga nila in the history, or the Nazi medical experiments. So during the World War II, a number of German physicians conducted a painful and often deadly experiments on thousands of prisoners without their permission or consent. Take note of this, no? Walang permission and consent. Same goes, we have also the Japanese Unit 731 during the World War II. They also conducted a series of experiments towards their prisoners of war, without their permission and consent. So most of the subjects of these experiments died or were permanently disabled as a result. So as you can see in this image is taken from one of those experiments, no? Talagang nakakatakot, no? The purpose of this experiment was to test the limits of human endurance at high altitudes with or without oxygen. The experiment was designed to duplicate the conditions that a German pilot might encounter in combat. So basically, meron talaga silang main goal. They have a really good goal for that. Meron sila talagang goal to establish that particular study. However, once again, their methodology is very immorally wrong. No, so they would lock the subject into an airtight, low pressure chamber. So this experiment was extremely dangerous and many people died due to the extreme changes in pressure. Okay, so basically this experiment or this incident led to the establishment of the Nuremberg Code in 1948. Okay. Okay, next we have the Tuskegee experiment. 1932 naman to. So, 1932, there's still no known cure for syphilis. So, the researchers, the public health officials in America, no, they collated 600 African American men na mag-undergo ng this experiment. So, 399 men with latent syphilis. So, basically, the first stages of the syphilis, meron na itong mga African American men na to. And 399. And then, 201 control group. Okay? So, researchers track the participants' full disease progressions. Okay? Ibig sabihin, these individuals, walang actual treatment na binigay sa kanila for syphilis, only placebo. So, basically, mga pills with just sugar in it or water, no? So, wala talagang treatment na binigay. So, the main goal of this study is just to assess or understand the full syphilis progression using the actual human body. So, talagang napakamali ng methodology and as well as yung kanilang main objective, no? So, it's really unethical, this study. Actually, this study went from 1932 hanggang 15 years, no? So, this study went for 15 years. Ngayon, kung bibilangin yung 15 years na yun, you would notice that penicillin as a cure for syphilis was already recommended in 1947. So basically, this particular experiment should have stopped by then. Okay. So this experiment developed mistrust. Okay, mistrust ng public towards public health and vaccinations by the African American community, which is hanggang ngayon those anti-vaxxers at saka yung mga those who do not trust the public health system, they still quote these particular experiments and multiple other experiments as well, na there's no na blind yung na hindi informed yung mga participants on what the experiment procedure is, no? So this led to the establishment of Belmont Report. Sorry, mali to, no? Belmont Report in 1979. So, ang tagal pa, no? Belmont Report in 1979. So, this is really alarming, no? So, mapapansin nyo, in America, the response rate from that particular event or incident na nangyari sa Tuskegee experiment, it took years before they have established a factual report, no. One of the reason here is because of racism. The individuals or yung mga participants nila dito, they are of color or African American men. So kaya nagtagal din in America. Okay? Next, we have also the Nuremberg Code. So ito na yung Nuremberg Code, no. So kung mapapansin nyo dito sa librong to, yan, these are some of those Nazi doctors na on trial, no? Other doctors kasi they attempted suicide, yung iba naman they escaped from sa mga nanguhuli sa kanila and etc. Okay, so Nuremberg Code ng 1948 is formulated during the Nuremberg military tribunals at the end of the World War II. Okay? So, the main objective of this Nuremberg Code is to serve to inform the development of subsequent professional and governmental codes guiding the ethical conduct of research with human subjects. Okay? So, in this particular code, inaalaw pa rin nila yung human subjects, no? However, there are specific guidelines that you need to follow bago ka mag-conduct ng health research or public health research using human subjects. Okay? So, the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. So, yun yung number one na dapat mong ma-understand regarding human subject research, no? Voluntary. Dapat the participants or they volunteered to be a subject of a human research, no? The first and most famous principle of the Nuremberg Code states that ito yon, the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. So you cannot force anyone into any experiment without their voluntary consent. So next naman, we have the Guatemala syphilis experiment. So similar siya dun sa Tuskegee. So again, syphilis din yung inaaral dito. So as you can see, during the 1930s, 1940s, nung hindi pa na masyadong na-recognize yung penicillin, no? Yung mga antibiotics na effective against syphilis, talagang they subject human individuals for this particular research kasi laganap talaga. The syphilis is considered as an epidemic back then. Okay? So, Guatemala syphilis experiment of the participants, which includes yung mga prisoners, sex workers, soldiers, children, and other psychiatric patients. So, those are the participants of the study. Okay? So, they were included in the experiment without any informed consent. Once again, walang informed consent. The primary aim of this research is to test the value of different medications in the prevention of symptom emergence following infection with certain STDs. Okay? So, yun yung kanilang main goal. So, anong controversial dito? So, bukod sa walang informed consent, the most controversial here is the method that they utilized. Ang ginamit nilang method was yung tinatawag na normal exposure. So, the participants were deliberately infected with syphilis, gonorrhea, tsaka yung chancroid ng Treponema pallidum as well, no? So, nakakatakot nun. So, talagang very unethical, no? Deliberately infected yung mga human subjects, no? So, paano yun? They inoculated the participants with Treponema pallidum. Yun yung causative agent of ng syphilis, no? So, saan nila inoculate? In the participants' cervix, sa kanilang penis, sa kanilang cisternal And then gumamit din silang cisternal puncture and linagay dun sa back of their skull, no? Yung needle na yon, no? To access yung CSF. So talagang nakakatakot, no? So, and what's worse is the oral ingestion in the psychiatric patients. So, deliberate nilang pinapakain yung inoculum ng treponema pallidum orally, no? Pinapakain sa mga psychiatric patients. So, no, yeah, so just the mere thought of kung papakinggan nyo lang, just hearing about this, or the mere thought of imagining something like this, no, nakakatakot talaga. So if you it is really unethical. At the same time, it's inhumane na, no? So talagang, even though some of these people are considered as prisoners, no, mga sex workers, nakakatakot pa rin because some of these participants, they are in need of psychiatric help, no? Yung mga children din, no, kasama dito. So talagang it is really inhumane to say, no? So if you want to hear more regarding this, okay, you just search the internet. Meron yan, napakadaming information regarding this experiment. So another significant event in the history research involved the thalidomide, okay, thalidomide in the 1950s. So in the late 1950s, thalidomide was approved as a sedative in Europe, but it was not approved by US FDA. So hindi siya approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Okay? So, probably the only positive thing that came out of these medical mishaps is that the authorities, no, yung mga authorities involved in this fiasco, no, they began to see the need to regulate research involving humans. Ano ba nangyari? Because it was prescribed to control sleep and nausea throughout pregnancy. However, anong nangyari? It was soon found out that taking this drug during pregnancy caused severe deformities in the fetus. So as you can see, ito, yan, wala siyang mga limbs, no? So, anong reason dyan? It is the thalidomide during pregnancy. Okay? So, kailangan talaga na study natin ang mga drugs before we subject them to regular people. Okay. So before we go on here, no, I just want to say na if you want to read more about unethical researches, napakarami pa niyan, especially with regards sa psychiatric or psychology, no. Sobrang daming mga unethical research regarding that. So ito yung mga nabanggit natin. These are just some of the public health researches back then which are really unethical. Okay? So talagang yun. So meron na tayo ngayon tinatawag na Declaration of Helsinki or yung DOH, no? Again, yung pag sinabi kong DOH, hindi ko tinutukoy yung Department of Health. This is, in this discussion, tinutukoy natin is Declaration of Helsinki. Okay? So, bakit nila ginawa to? It is to further avoid yung mga medical mishaps na nabanggit natin earlier. So, like its well-known predecessor, yung Nuremberg Code, it was intended to prevent mistreatment of research subjects such as what happened in the previous examples na pinakilala natin. No? Yung mga Tuskegee, yung mga thalidomide, etc. Okay? Next, so the DOH was first adopted at the 1964 WMA or yung World Medical Association Assembly in Helsinki, Finland. Okay? The main focus or the main purpose of this study or of this assembly is to provide guidance to physicians engaged in clinical research, and it aims also to emphasize on the responsibilities ng mga researchers for the protection of the research subjects. Okay? For the protection of the research subjects. Ano ba yung main responsibility tsaka yung mga guidelines na kailangan sundin ng mga clinical physicians as well as clinical researchers, no, to protect those na magiging human subjects nila or magiging participants nila in their studies. So in that, the objectives of the study must always prioritize and promote the well-being of the individual research subjects. Okay? So yan, number 1 yan. Yan ang magiging objective nyo kapag gagawa rin kayo ng public health research, considering the human participants. Dapat you consider their well-being. Okay? It is always superior, no? Yung well-being of the individual will always be superior than pursuing scientific knowledge and advancement. Okay? So, yun ang pinakatatandaan nyo. Yes, if your main goal is to pursue scientific knowledge and advancement, you do not antagonize, no, yung magiging well-being of your human subjects. Kailangan priority mo muna before you establish a very good research paper or research title, yung methodology mo wherein the well-being of the individual participants is considered. Okay? So, number 1 yan. Ulitin ko, importante to, no? Please take note. The well-being of subjects is always superior than pursuing scientific knowledge and advancement. Yan yung main objective ng DOH. Okay? So, the key requirement in ethical research is the informed consent. And take note that this must be given freely. Okay? Without any form of coercion. So, dapat hindi mo bina-blackmail yung or pinipilit yung yung tawag dito, yung mga participants mo. And they are really informed. Hindi mo sila i-gaslight. Okay? Hindi mo rin sila lolokohin. Okay? Hindi mo sila i-manipulate. Dapat alam nila in their own mind, in their own well-being, anong mangyayari doon sa research na yun. Okay? So, the DOH went through a series of revisions, and the first main revision is that the research with human subjects should be reviewed by an independent committee. Okay? So, this independent committee, ibig sabihin, hiwalay sila. No? Meron silang sariling committee. No? They have their own group wherein their main focus is to review ethical research guidelines. So, similarly, here in AUF, meron din tayong sariling Research Ethics Review Committee. So, yun, no? So, as you can see, in every institution na pupuntahan ninyo or every universities, every hospitals na gumagawa ng mga public health researches or ng mga clinical researches, they have their own research review committee. Meron silang sarili-sarili. So, here in AUF, meron din tayong sarili. Okay? So, provisions from the Declaration of Helsinki or DOH. So, the notable principles and provisions under the DOH are the following. Number 1, research with human subjects should be based on the results of preclinical experiments in the laboratory and with animals. Okay? Okay, ulitin ko. Kailangan yung results mo, okay, meron mo ng based, they are based on preclinical experiments. Ibig sabihin, meron ng results prior i-subject si human bago ka mag-proceed sa human participants, as well as sa animals, no? Kailangan dumaan muna sa masusing preclinical researches bago dumaan sa humans. So if you really like to, or if you are fond of reading researches, no, health researches, as early as 2010 yata nun, mga 2010s, meron ng mga effective HIV drugs, no? Marami ng effective HIV drugs, pero sa mga animals. So pagdating naman sa humans, no, the antiretroviral therapy, hindi siya ganun ka totally na eradicate yung virus, no? Or hindi niya talaga ganun na prevent. Okay, so talagang ganun siya ka-importante. So even though na effective siya sa animals, pagdating naman sa humans, hindi pa rin siya ganun so may kulang pa rin. Okay, so mas maganda. And then other researches then, effective siya sa animals, pero pagdating naman sa humans, mapapansin natin na hindi na ganun or walang epekto, or worse, magkaroon ng much more worse side effects in humans. Okay? Second, of course, the research should be conducted by scientifically qualified individuals. That's why, again, if you are fond of reading research papers, mapapansin nyo, there will always be an advisor or co-advisor dun sa mga research papers. The main reason here is that those individuals, yung mga advisors natin, yung mga co-advisors, they are qualified, no? They have already written numerous researches, no? Kaya they are really qualified para maging tawag dito, para para tumulong doon sa research paper mo. Okay? And third, meron tayong risks of participating in research should not exceed the benefits. Hence, the benefits of the study must always outweigh its risks. Okay? Kailangan mas maraming benefits ang research paper mo kaysa sa risks. Okay? So, yun yung pinakawaling provision. So, other provisions na very significant include the 6th and the 11th principle. Number 6, tsaka principle number 11. So, principle 6 states that in the medical research involving human subjects, the well-being of the individual research subject must take precedence over all other interests. So yun yung nabanggit din ng main objective of the DOH earlier, no, ng Declaration of Helsinki. Kailangan the well-being or the welfare of human participants is the utmost top priority. Okay? Other than that, second na lang sila, or basta pinaka-priority mo is well-being of your test subjects or mga research subjects. Okay? Principle 11, on the other hand, states that it is the duty of physicians who participate in the medical research to protect the life, health, dignity, integrity, right to self-determination, privacy, and confidentiality of personal information of research subjects. Okay? So, all of this, kailangan ma-consider mo. So, if you want to read more about the Declaration of Helsinki, you can find a copy of it in the internet, syempre. With regards to this, talagang fina-follow natin dapat yan. Okay? So, another outcome then of the nangyari because of the unfortunate events na na-mention natin, and other than those, napakarami pa ang mga unethical research na nangyari. Meron din dinevelop na guidelines yung WHO CIOMS. Okay? Ito yung birth of the International Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research involving human subjects. So, the said guidelines were formulated in 1992 by the World Health Organization and the CIOMS. The WHO CIOMS guidelines consists of 25 guidelines. Okay, ano yung 25 na yan? Napakarami niyan. Hindi na natin isa-isahin yan. So, isa-summarize lang natin that the guidelines gave more emphasis on the community engagement in research. Yung awareness that exclusion ng mga potentially vulnerable groups, no, in many cases has resulted in a poor evidence base. So, kapag kasi nagpa-focus ng isang research on potentially vulnerable groups lang, no, it is a poor evidence base. So, kailangan talaga doon siya sa stereotype or yun sa tinatawag na tawag dito, yung ano ba yung diniscuss natin nung initial modules natin. Sabi ko that yung mga participants mo, they should represent, no, all, no, or yung kabuuan. Okay, so the main issues addressed in the guidelines are the following. So, number 1, yung informed consent nga. Yan, ulit-ulit yan. Number 2, the standards of external review, yung natawag na independent review committee. No? And number 3, yung protections for vulnerable persons participating in medical research. Okay? So, yun yan. Next naman is the Belmont Report. So, Belmont Report naman is a response to the infamous Tuskegee incident. Yung diniscuss natin earlier about the African-American men na binigyan or inassess lang yung yung normal development ng syphilis sa katawan nila without giving them any treatment, no? So, yan yung response, the Belmont Report. So, the Belmont Report aims to summarize the basic ethical principles and guidelines that should assist in resolving the ethical problems that surround the conduct of research with human subjects. So, included in the Belmont Report are the 3 basic ethical principles relevant to research involving humans. Ito yung pinaka-importante na hanggang ngayon, we identify this as the 3 basic ethical principles, no, relevant to human researches. So, number 1, respect for persons. Number 2, beneficence. And number 3, justice. Okay, isa-isayin natin na mabilisan. Number 1, respect for persons. So, respect for persons, this incorporates at least yung 2 ethical convictions. Ano yung dalawang yan? The first one is the individuals should be treated as autonomous agents. Ulitin ko, no? Take note of this, no? First, the individuals should be treated as autonomous agents. And second, the persons with diminished autonomy are entitled to protection. Okay? So, ano ibig sabihin ng mga yan? So, isa-isay natin, autonomous agents. An autonomous individual is someone who is capable of acting independently. No? Kaya niyang mag-isip or gumalaw ng sarili niya, sa sarili niya lang. Okay? And in such a careful manner when it comes to his or her personal goals and desires, no, kaya niyang mag-desisyon ng sarili niya. Okay? So, ganun yun. So, autonomous agent, autonomous individual. Capable siya of acting independently or on his or on her own on his or her own yun own. Napakahirap naman. Sorry. Okay, next. Persons with diminished autonomy are entitled to protection. A person with diminished autonomy is otherwise examples, mga minors, mga minor de edad, prisoners, so mga mentally disabled, no? So basically, ito yung natawag din nating mga minority, no? So these populations must be protected. Okay? Ibig sabihin, diminished autonomy, ibig sabihin kailangan pa nila ng kanilang mga ang tawag dito, mga guardians, no? Kailangan natin ng guardians nila bago natin sila magawan ng or masama sa human participants mo. Okay? So yan. So we need to protect them. Okay? Again, respect for persons, autonomous agents, persons with diminished autonomy. Next one is the beneficence. So beneficence, persons are treated in an ethical manner not only by respecting their decisions and protecting them from harm, pero we also make efforts, no, as a public health professionals. We also make efforts to secure their well-being. Okay? So, paano natin gagawin yan? So, this can be achieved by maximizing the possible benefits and minimizing the possible harms. So, similar lang siya or redundant siya dun sa kanina, no? Sabi doon na maximize the benefits, tas minimize the risks, no? So, pareho lang dun sa kanina. If you cannot totally eradicate the harm or yung mga risks, yung tinatawag, that is inherent to the study, what you can do is to minimize it to the least possible levels. So, that, ibig sabihin, if hindi natin maiiwasan na meron talagang risks or harms dun sa study natin, at least, gawin natin na goal to minimize its possible effect or outcome, no, in the least possible levels. So, the risks are not limited to the physical aspect. Pwede rin siyang social, psychological, legal, and financial risks and benefits. So, hindi lang pwedeng maapektuhan yung kanilang physical, pwede rin yung social, psychological, legal, and financial risks. Okay? Next. Yung last one is justice. So, justice, pag sinabing injustice, it occurs when some benefit to which a person is entitled is denied without good reason, or when some burden is imposed unduly sa kanila, no? So, ganun ang injustice. Kaya, anong kailangan mong gawin? What you need to do is the burdens and the benefits of research are fairly distributed. Dapat hindi unfair. Kailangan the burdens and benefits are fairly distributed. For example, you're conducting a study to observe the potential effectiveness of a medicine against syphilis, no? So, tulad nung kanina. So, you're on the phase of recruiting participants and you were trying to obtain their informed consent. Dun sa informed consent law, it was clearly stated na the medicine was found to be effective. So, the participants are entitled to free treatment. So, lahat sila. Okay? So, they choose to participate, hoping to get the free treatment if it was effective in the end. After the study, turns out the medicine actually worked, but the participants did not receive their promised reward or benefit. So, ito yung pinaka problema, no? This is the form of injustice pag ganun. Okay? Even though na dun sa informed consent mo, no, meron kang kinlaim na that particular medicine is effective. However, some of those participants did not receive their promised benefit, no? Hindi sila gumaling, no? This is a form of injustice kasi hindi fair yung distribution of the particular treatment sa kanila. So this is a form of injustice since the person was entitled to free treatment but he or she was denied. So this has been observed in the previously conducted syphilis experiments yung sa where the subjects bore the burdens of participation but stood to gain nothing from the outcomes of the research. Kaya nga nabanggit ko sa inyo dun sa during the duration of the Tuskegee experiment, nagkaroon na ng development of penicillin. However, tinuloy pa rin yung Tuskegee even though available na yung penicillin. Diba? So talagang injustice yung nangyari dun sa Tuskegee. So now let's talk about the different principles of ethical clinical research. We will talk about the following 8 principles. Okay, number 1, the collaborative partnership. Number 2, social value. Number 3, scientific validity. Number 4, fair participant selection. Number 5, favorable risk-benefit ratio. 6, independent review. 7, informed consent. And number 8, respect for participants. So let's begin with let's start with collaborative partnership. So partnership basically means that the community where a certain research is conducted should collaborate. No? Dapat collaborative effort yung nangyayari. And they unite in order to accomplish the aims or endeavors of the research. So a way to collaborate is to collaborative partnership is by sharing or resources in order to achieve the mutual goal. So similarly, yung recently na nangyaring pandemic, during the pandemic, so ang nangyari, because it is a pandemic, each and every country in the world, they are involved in COVID-19 research. So kaya mabilis ang nangyaring development of vaccines and maraming companies ang gumawa nun. And another thing dun sa collaborative partnership is all of these countries na nagdevelop ng vaccines, they disseminate the vaccines for free, kaya magandang nangyaring collaborative partnership yun. Next, social value refers to the importance of the information that a research study is likely to produce. Ano ba yung information na mapoproduce ng isang research paper na ginawa mo? Whether the information can lead to the improvement in healthcare or health in general. For example, the continuous evaluation ng studies conducted today with regards to the effectiveness of COVID-19. So hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin mga studies na nangyayari with regards dun sa effectiveness ng COVID-19 vaccines against the SARS-CoV-2, na different strains or variants. Do you think that these types of research possess social value? If you answered yes, then you are correct. Merong social value yan. Okay. So they possess social value because the possible information or results from them can be beneficial in the fight against COVID-19. Okay? So ano nangyayari? Or so when does a study lose its social value? Kailan ba nangyayari yung walang social value ang isang particular research paper? A study lacks social value if its endpoints are unrelated to the clinical decision making, because then they cannot be used by clinicians and policymakers to alter their practices and to create policies respectively. To be honest, there are multiple research papers ng undergraduates, yung mga 4th years in the past academic years, that they really lack social value. So at least take note of this, yung importance ng social value para at least makita nyo yung relevance or the significance ng magiging future research paper ninyo. And you have to remember that, yes, replication serves an important role in scientific research. It's good that some studies are conducted repeatedly to obtain better results or to add to the existing evidence. However, tandaan nyo, even well-designed studies that lack sufficient novelty or innovation, yung ano bang bago dun sa ginawa mong replicate, no? It may also lack social value. So, yun ang isipin niya. Okay? Next, scientific validity. So, scientific value and validity refers to the ability of a study to produce reliable, valid information capable of realizing the stated objectives of the research. Once again, ulitin ko, the scientific value and validity refers to the ability of a study to produce reliable, valid information capable of realizing the stated objectives of the research. Okay? So, in order for you to achieve a scientifically valid paper or research, kailangan you choose the appropriate methods or study designs that could achieve the objectives of your research. Ito yung pinaka tinitignan ng mga research panelists nyo, no? In the future. They always see to it that your research methodology, no, yung research methodology nyo to para makuha nyo yung main goal nyo or main objective of your research, they should be valid, no? One thing na malalaman nyo or to evaluate the validity of your research method is you utilize the related literatures. No? Kailangan meron ka mga related journals or research papers wherein they utilize that particular method. And on that note, kailangan yung ma-validate yung methodology ninyo. Okay? So, once again, this is also important para maging significant yung study ninyo. Okay? Next is for participant selection. So you have to stick to your objectives when determining the eligibility of your participants. Any other factor that is irrelevant or extraneous to your research objective, risks, and benefits should not be used to select or exclude your target communities. Some researchers use what we call an inclusion and exclusion criteria. Okay? Take note of this, no? Para magkaroon ka ng fair participant selection, ito yung pinaka-common na ginagawa. We call it the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So, inclusion criteria are the characteristics wherein yung participants mo should possess. So, dapat may ganito. Ito yung mga criteria na meron dapat ang isang participant for him or her to be included in our study. So, that is inclusion criteria. Pag exclusion naman, syempre, they should not possess those particular criteria. So, each criterion, sabihin natin na dapat matangkad yung dapat dun sa inclusion criteria, sabihin niya isang criterion is dapat lalaki. Tapos titignan mo sa exclusion criteria. Sa exclusion criteria, dapat yung lalaki is at least 5'9", no? So, ganun. So, excluded na yung mga 5'8" pababa na height na lalaki. So, ganun. No? Ito yung simple explanation of the inclusion and exclusion criteria for a fair participant selection. Once again, when we talk about fair participant selection, kailangan yung significant doon sa study mo. Kailangan relevant itong mga participants mo. Okay, they should be relevant. Okay? Next, a favorable risk-benefit ratio. Research typically should offer individual participants a favorable net risk benefit ratio. So ito yung diniscuss natin earlier, no? They should the benefit should always outweigh the risks in research, and if the risk cannot be totally eradicated, it should be at least be minimized. And this is what we call the favorable net risk benefit ratio. Mas mabigat, kung mapapansin niyo sa picture, ayan, no? Mas mabigat si benefit kaysa kay risk. Ibig sabihin, mas maraming benefit kaysa sa risks. Okay? Ito lang kasimple. Okay? Next, independent review. We do independent review to minimize the concerns regarding researchers' conflicts of interest and ensure public accountability. So, ayan, no? For example, I'm a owner of a pharmaceutical company, and last month we came up with a new hypertensive medicine. Ngayon, I want to test that particular medicine, yung effectiveness niya, no, against other brands in the market. So I assembled a group of researchers and I funded that particular research. It just so happened dun sa research na yun, no, na yung research of the study, it favored my product or my medicine. So it proved that my product is more effective as compared mo dun sa other brands na nasa market na. So, do you think this is a conflict of interest in the scenario? Even though na tama naman yung methodology, tama naman yung ginawa ng mga tao, the answer is yes. It is a conflict of interest because I funded the research itself. No? Dapat, kung sarili mong medicine ang gagamitin mo, kailangan iba ang magte-test. No? Kailangan iba ang magkakonduct ng research regarding that. Okay? One of the main reason bakit is if you fund a particular research tapos sarili mong medicine ang ginagamit, ibig sabihin you can easily influence, no? Madali mong manipulate yung results of a study. You can already say na ay mas effective yung medicine ko even though yung result niya is otherwise different. Okay, so again, one of the answer here is we have an independent review. Kailangan there's a different committee or a different group of individuals na sila yung magkakonduct ng research, or kailangan i-assess nila yung research paper mo or methodology mo prior the official data collection. Okay? Next is informed consent. So the purpose of informed consent is to show respect for the autonomy of individuals, to show respect to the ability of an individual na mag-decide for his or her own personal benefits. Sarili niya mismo, siya magde-decide kung sasama ba siya sa research na to or hindi. Okay? Respect for participants. Lastly, ito na yung pinaka-last, respect for participants. Researchers, excuse me. So, the ethical conduct of clinical research does not end when informed consent is obtained. Kailangan, the researchers have the consent or the constant obligation to treat individuals. Dapat tuloy-tuloy yung treatment mo, na yung respect mo dun sa participant mo. Hindi lang basta, nag-yes siya or nag-agree siya na nasasali siya dun sa research paper ko. Okay, sige. Gawin mo na yung research. Tulungan mo na ako. Sagutin mo na yung research paper ko. Hanggang doon na lang ba? No, kailangan constant yan. Tuloy-tuloy yung treatment. No? And yung respect mo na sa individual. Okay? Constant obligation to treat individuals with respect from the time they are approached until the study is completed. Okay? Hindi lang dapat na you show your respect towards them while they are being recruited. No? Kailangan after obtaining their consent or they may signature, hindi mo na sila iiwan or pababayaan. No. Ang gagawin mo is you respect them all throughout the study hanggang matapos yung study na yan. So, hanggang matapos, hanggang ma-publish na yan, kailangan respeto pa rin. For example, natapos mo na yung study mo, tapos yun palang isang participant mo sabi niya, mag-withdraw na ako. I don't like my data to be shown in your research paper. As a sign of respect, yes, i-withdraw mo rin yung kanyang data. No? And then, hahanap ka ng kapalit. So, dapat yan, may respect all of the participants. Kasi nga, number 1, ano yung pinaka-number 1? Priority natin, yung well-being of the individuals. Okay? Then, we have here the National Ethical Guidelines for Health and Health-Related Research of 2017. Again, you can have or you can find a copy of this in the internet, and this serves as a guideline for researchers involving human subjects. Ang update niyan sa Pilipinas, as far as I know, after COVID, meron lang silang few na dinagdag. Pero hindi pa ako kasi makahanap. Pero if you find a more updated National Ethical Guidelines, you can also read those. Okay? So, we have the informed consent process. So, we have 3 basic elements: information, comprehension, and voluntariness. So, we proceed to the informed consent process. Informed consent is considered a process because a researcher should be able to convey all the information, all the necessary information to the potential participants in a manner that is effective and efficient. There is no question as to the importance of informed consent in the epidemiological research because it gave the participants an opportunity to choose what shall or shall not done to them. So, yun ang pinaka-importante. Informed consent. Ito yung pinakauna mong gagawin bago mo i-approach ang isang participant. Okay? Number 1, information. In obtaining their informed consent, the participants are oriented about the basic information about the study, which includes the purpose. Potential participants must be effectively informed of the purpose, procedure, possible risks and benefits associated with the participation in the study. So, in this portion, the participants can also ask the researchers some questions. And the researchers are obligated to address all those questions properly. So, basically, you gave them the information regarding your research paper. Kailangan if they have any questions, kailangan maging transparent ka towards them. If there are potential risks, yung mga inherent risks, yung mga risks na hindi natin maiwasan, you should inform them regarding of that. If there are benefits, there should be benefits. If there are benefits, you should be, again, know, the human participant should know ano yung makukuha nila. Okay? And because of that, syempre, the participant may opt to withdraw. Pwedeng ayaw niya, ayoko, hindi ako mag-artist. And then, syempre, okay lang yun. Tanggapin natin yun because out of respect. Okay? So, number 1, information. Number 2 is comprehension. So, comprehension refers to the understanding of the participant to the information conveyed by the researcher. This can greatly affect the participant's ability to make an informed choice. That's why the information must be delivered in manner that is fitting or appropriate to the level of maturity, education, and literacy of the participant. So, kailangan madaling makomprehend yung mga yung informed consent mo. Okay? Yung information, dapat madali siyang intindihin. Okay? Or dapat it is appropriate doon sa education level nung participant mo. So, say for example, your research paper is about Diba? Mga indigenous people, no? Sa Pambato. Mari pupuntahan mo sila. Now, not all the indigenous people there, are familiar with the complex uh, English dito words, no? Hindi sila ganun ka-informed sa mga complex, no? Yung mas mahihirap na English words. Now, for them to understand that particular dito, yung informed consent mo, kailangan instead of writing them in English tapos napakahirap na English words, no, complex yung ginamit ng words, ang gagamitin mo is either Tagalog or Filipino language or Kapampangan, no? So pwede mong gamitin yun. Okay, we have also and in research kasi we have also validations ng Filipino language tsaka mga Kapampangan. Pinapa-validate din natin yung mga informed consent, yung mga mismong questionnaire, survey forms, no? Na if you're going to translate them in Filipino and Kapampangan, we can also or we are also obliged to validate them, no? Kakaroon din ng independent validation towards them. Okay, so again, comprehension. So next is voluntariness. So voluntariness, remember that in research, a consent is only valid when given voluntarily. Meaning, the participant was not coerced or influenced, no, doon sa decision niya, doon sa decision making niya. Okay? So coercion is when harmful threats are presented to participants in order to comply. Okay? So hindi ka naman lalapit sa isang research participant. Kunwari, ang deadline nyo is tomorrow na, so kailangan mo na maghanap ng participants, no? So hindi mo naman sila lalapitan, tapos tatakutin mo, mas meron kang syringe na hawak, no? So sabihin mo, tutusukin kita sa bagang kapag hindi ka sumagot ng research paper. So that is coercion. No, they should be volunteer. So voluntary. This is dapat. Okay? Next, informed consent form. So the informed consent must include the following. First, yung features of the research design. The second is you indicate how long the research will run, so yung duration. Number third is yung foreseeable risks and pain or discomfort or inconvenience to the participants. Okay, so for example, your research is about yung siguro magte-test kayo ng mga what you call this, mga parameters ng mga clinical chemistry parameters, so mga glucose, lipids, and etc. Okay, so basically you need to extract their blood. So kailangan, that is considered as a risk, yung pagtutusok ninyo sa mga possible participants. So kailangan inform sila regarding that. Okay, fourth, you're going kind and amount of compensation if meron, no? There are particular compensation, no, na may mga studies kasi na wherein kailangan puntahan mo pa sila on a specific location or kailangan mag-meet pa kayo on a specific location, no? So ibig sabihin, you need to compensate their travel fees. So kaya yung if oras nila yung nasayang or if ever lunchtime na, so pakainin nyo, gano'n, no? So those are kind and amount of compensation. Hindi mo pwedeng suhulin, no? Uy, pag sinagot mo yan, bibigyan kita ng 3,000 pesos. So that is not already a voluntary process. So mali na yan. Dapat yung compensation is yung tama lang na kung ano yung na-store mo sa oras nila, yun lang yung compensate mo. Okay? Next is the direct benefits to the participant and expected benefits to the community, society, or science. So, again, ulit-ulit lang tayo. Kailangan mas mabigat or mas marami yung benefits, no, kaysa sa risks. Number 6, how long will you keep the records of the participants? No? Provisions for privacy and confidentiality of participants' records. So basically, even though the data collected from these participants are considered as anonymous, how long mo sila itatago? Okay, hanggang kailan sila nasa sa iyo. Okay? Then lastly, sponsors of research, institutional affiliation of investigators, nature, and sources of funding for research. So lahat yan must be properly mentioned in the form. If you have any sponsors, no, kailangan makita din yan din sa informed consent kasi it may influence also the decision ng mga participants. Okay? So, meron din tayong possible direct or secondary use of participants' medical records, possible future use and final disposition of biological specimens, provision of treatment that is free of charge for specified type of research-related injury or complications associated with research. Approval of ethics review committee of the research protocol, tsaka certificate of consent. Okay? So now, research ethics review process. Okay, yan. So, research ethics review process is conducted by Research Ethics Committee based on an evaluation of the research activities described in the protocol and protocol-related documents. So, before any research can be conducted, kailangan mag-undergo siya ng tinatawag nating research ethics review process. Usually, the review process is done by an independent research ethics review committee. So, here in AUF, meron tayong REC or yung Review Ethics Committee. So, they are going to evaluate your research paper on the basis of number 1, exempt from review, number 2, full review, and number 3, expedited review. So, yan yung magiging yung mga decisions nila, initial review decisions dun sa research paper. So, there are times when a study can be exempted from a review. One case is if your study does not involve any human participants at all. No? So, pag hindi ka gagamit ng human participants, exempted ka na. Walang ethics review na magaganap. Okay? Or, pwede ring it won't need to use identifiable human tissue or mga biological samples dun sa data mo, no? So, wala na, exempted ka na sa review. A full review, on the other hand, will be required for protocols that entail more than minimal risks to the participants or those that involve vulnerability issues. Okay? So, yun yung magiging full review. Expedited is when you will only make a use of chart review, mga surveys of non-sensitive nature, or use of anonymous or anonymized mga data records and so on. Kung wala namang masyadong risks na involved dito, no, yung privacy lang ng mga individuals, mabilis lang yung expedited. Okay. Full review, ulitin ko, yan yung magkakaroon ng minimal risks to the participant or yung mga taong vulnerable, no, sa research. Okay? So, that's it. So, that's the part 1 of our causation, causal inference, tas public health ethics. So, yung part 1 natin is mainly public health ethics. So, the part 2 is the causal inference. Okay? So, thank you for listening and goodbye.